All right, let's do it live on a Monday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. Merely Bo, the great Z. The Hoff will join here for the last 90 of the program as we do it live on what is obviously a very, very disappointing Monday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I think we should start here, my friend. How do we want to judge this team?
I don't know how to answer that. Do you mean harshly? Do you mean
fairly?
What
I mean is like you said,
irrationally?
So you go into a season and you say, okay, I'm judging this team against the very best in the National Football League.
Okay.
Are you judging this team as a playoff contender? Are we judging this team as a winner of the AFC North? Are you judging this team as one that can be a team of consequence in the postseason? My hunch is it's probably one of those 4 or 5 kind of ideals is how we're judging them.
This is a team that should be in the playoffs, period. Full stop.
Okay, so I agree with you. Short of the Super Bowl best team in the league situation,
You have
we
that
just
ability,
have not
but
shown
we've
that
got
at all.
Right, we got
just have not shown that at all.
We did show that. We showed that in the way that we performed against the Tennessee Titans. Because if you think about the Titans have beaten on the other ends of that, the Chargers,
Yeah.
who are people think of as a playoff team, and then stomped the Bengals.
The Bengals
they have issues. That's fine.
Big problems.
But what we did to a team that was put 27 points up in those other 2 games and held them to 3, that showed a level of dominance, and then our offense was dominant against them. So I feel like when we play like that, we have that kind of a ceiling. Now, did we get a chance to even evaluate that? No. I think if today's show was 28-3 and Deshaun Watson played yesterday and was healthy, this is a completely different show, and then I think there are real concerns. You're 2-2. Should you be 3-1? Absolutely. But the season is, you have not lost the season in this opening stanza. You have not capitalized on this opening stanza as you could have, and you have 13 games left to become a team of consequence. And quite frankly, the teams that are playing the best through September, sometimes they go on to win. I saw a thing from DVOA, the Football Outsiders, that the number 1 team in DVOA after week 4 has not won the Super Bowl in 6 straight years.
Yeah.
It's about being good late. There are a lot of opportunities for that. Yesterday was just devastating in the sense that we went into it all thinking Deshaun Watson was going to play, and we'll hear from head coach Kevin Stefanski. He thought he was going to play as well, and that you had a chance to beat this Ravens team. And then when he did not play and it became apparent pretty quickly we were not going to have a chance to beat this Ravens team with DTR at quarterback, and that's no knock on him, 5th-round rookie. It's a different speed, man. This isn't the Pac-12.
It's not the preseason.
It's not the preseason.
No.
It is a very, very different situation, and we learned that in a harsh way, and it kind of compounded with this was the game where our defense finally had a bad tackling performance. We really hadn't had one of those. We've been great. So, no, you want to judge this team as a playoff team. Now, that team that we put out there was not the team that would go to the playoffs. And I think yesterday was a day that you felt the loss of Nick Chubb substantially because in the past you would have said, all right, we're going to try to squeeze the football, turn this into a Nick Chubb game, run it 30 times. But you didn't have that. And so it was tough to watch. It was brutal on offense. I think the Ravens kind of in the second half shut it down a little bit. They were just like, okay, 21 points is
we'll get out of here.
It is enough.
We don't need any more than that.
It's enough to win this game. But Lamar played very well. Looked like the guy who was, the MVP a few years ago. Threw it efficiently, ran it. All 4 of their touchdowns were either by his feet or his arm. It was tough. It was a tough game. I do want to point out, though, one positive, and Chris Rose was adamant that I share this all with you. We won time of possession yesterday.
Oh, there you go. That's critical.
So we're 4-0 in time of possession.
4-0 in time of possession.
0-4 in the turnover battle.
We had more plays than them, too.
0-4 in the turnover battle, though.
Yeah, 4 straight of that.
3 of them by 2 or more.
Yeah. Well, this one wouldn't. At the end, that's the last one. But it
was still 2-1 at that point.
2-1, yeah. I asked the question because as we head into this bye week and you say, what are the 2023 Cleveland Browns? And if you would have gone from the start of the season, you would have said, if you asked that same question, I would have felt better about it because obviously you have Nick Chubb. And you don't have Nick Chubb anymore. So to me, I don't really know what this team is going to be going forward. I have a pretty good idea they're going to play great defense, but they also it's got to be complementary football. And that's not what happened yesterday. It was really inconsistent, obviously, quarterback play, just dreadfully inconsistent. And it was a quick turnover to them, and then you're right back on the heels again. You're right, the defense didn't tackle well, but they also were put in a brutal spot to try to have any type of success whatsoever.
No, and I think overall they still had a pretty solid game on the defensive side of the ball. It was not our best performance. The number of missed tackles, I think we had 11 according to Pro Football Focus, which was the highest of the season by a wide margin. No, it wasn't our best game at all.
Just sucked, like going into the bye week,
because it lasts for 2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks of this now, and you could have got 3-1.
Yes. If this game had happened 2 weeks ago, we lost to the Steelers and the Ravens back to back, 1-2, skies falling. Then we put a beating on Tennessee, and you're 2-2.
The timing
you
of
win,
it sucks.
go into it. Of course, it sucks. It's not fun. The highs are high, the lows are low. This is the roller coaster of the National Football League. This Browns team still has the ability to do everything that we believed it had the ability to do at the start of this season. And so, will they be able to do that? Will they go out and be able to, on a consistent basis win? That's the question.
Can I push back just for a second,
Sure.
as friends? Do we
what?
have what we had at the beginning of this season to accomplish everything that we wanted?
Yeah.
Because we don't have Nick Chubb anymore.
I understand that, but if Nick Chubb is going to derail your season on even whatever level it is, it wasn't going to be a season of consequence anyway. This is
maybe that was true.
This is a quarterback league.
Maybe that I understand it, but the drop from him, we were. It appears even in the win against Tennessee, which was certainly an outstanding win, and
they are a
Deshaun was
historic run
unbelievable.
defense. To be
and
fair.
they are, yeah. You do just wonder though. It is just the margin is so much less without Chubb, and we are going to have to play games in inclement weather. We haven't had to do that yet, other than the opener where it was downpour. But we have not. We're going to have to play games in December and January if we're to accomplish the things we think are possible. We're going to have to do so while throwing the ball predominantly because we don't run it well, and that isn't just a factor of Nick Chubb. We don't block it well.
Our
running.
O-line is playing bad.
Our
football
offensive
right
line
now.
run blocking is brutal.
Atrocious.
So Nick Chubb covered up a lot of that stuff and would have covered it up in December. And so I understand it's a quarterback league. You don't have to tell me that. I get that. I know I know that. But Nick Chubb allowed for a tremendous margin that is gone because you could have relied on him. He's 5 yards every time you get in the ball. That's gone. And there isn't anybody out there that can do that. And you don't have anybody on this roster that can do that.
No, they've got to block better. Harrison Bryant has got to block immensely better in the run game.
It's bad.
It was bad, and there really wasn't a lot of ways to go. I mean, I'll pull up right now, but I'm pretty sure the contact on running could not have been great. Our yards after contact, so we had 84 of our 93 rushing yards came after contact. So that means we're getting contacted at the line of scrimmage in this game.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah. We averaged 3.7 yards per carry. We averaged 3.4 yards after contact per carry. So nobody's good there. By the way, if you're getting a yard of push, now all of a sudden we're averaging 4.5 yards a carry. If you're getting 2 yards of push, we're averaging 5.5 yards a carry. That's what a yard doesn't feel unreasonable to be able to do that. The Browns had in this game, obviously, some wild plays in the run game. We had a 20-yard loss, which I think is the first one that has not happened.
I've never seen that.
Run. No, I haven't seen it either.
I knew it was going backwards a lot, but when they initially on television, when they put the graphic up, it said, because that was on first down, right?
Yes.
It said 2nd and 23. And I went, okay, I mean, that really sucks to lose 13 yards on first down. That really, really sucks. But no, they just hadn't had a chance to update it. It was 2nd and 30.
Yeah, 2nd and 30.
What are we doing? Yeah. And I think what happened, and it probably happened for a bunch of players, it certainly happened with, I think, your rookie quarterback. You had a bunch of guys that felt the need to try to make something out of nothing sometimes, and in doing so was a tremendous detriment to the team.
Yeah, It was a tough performance to watch. It was bad.
Brutal,
at one point on the broadcast, Chris Rose, we have the game summary, and I said, "Here's my summary. Bad. Like this was it was bad, and it was tough. It was tough. I got a chance to talk to DTR today, and obviously he's very disappointed about the way that things went, but he's going to continue to work hard so that if he gets another opportunity like that, it goes better this time. I think that the way that it all went down was very difficult on everybody in the sense that I can tell you, and people can believe it or not, and I think you kind of heard our head coach say it, the expectation on Sunday morning for everybody wearing brown and orange was that Deshaun Watson was going to play quarterback that day.
Mm-hmm.
And then that did not happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had a game plan where, yes, you're still putting a plan for Deshaun. You obviously have to make adjustments on the fly. It happens all the time. What if your quarterback gets hurt? It's obvious there. But this was a tough situation, I think, for everybody. And we did not probably in terms of, and I think Kevin Stefanski said we had to coach better, and we'll hear from him momentarily, and we had to play better, and we did not. We did not, and we were outclassed by a perennially strong team. And I know people would say, well, the Browns, barely beat them last year when they didn't have their quarterback and their running back. And I'll remind people again, Tyler Huntley's a Pro Bowler, so their backup quarterback's a Pro Bowler.
You can't use that to your
he's a pro.
You can't use that to your advantage and as a negative example, the biggest joke in the history of the Pro Bowl, and to your advantage.
Well, you saw I was laughing while saying it.
I know.
I said it on the broadcast too, and Chris was like, "Wait a second,
you got to stop."
He's like, "Come on, man.
We're not allowing that
like,
here."
Come on, man. So what do you mean? He's a Pro Bowler.
Yes. What do you want? What do I do?
He was in the skills competition. I saw it. I saw it myself.
I saw it with my own
I think
eyes,
Chris said something like, with both of his touchdowns that he threw in the entire season. I said, yeah, that's right.
That's right. He said there. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he did. Anyway, and his robust 77.2 quarterback rating. But nonetheless, we beat them at the end of last year barely, right? 24-22.
Yeah.
It took a Miles scoop and score to kind of ice that game for us. That's where we've got to be. Now, I think Huntley, undrafted free agent, right? This was not a guy that all of us, he had started a couple games the year before because Lamar had been banged up before, so it wasn't his first start. And we all know what, not that Justin Fields has gone on to have a stellar career, but we all remember at First Energy Stadium his first start.
Yeah.
When we sacked him, I believe, a franchise record 9 times.
Yeah. He was great yesterday, by the way, against Denver. 28 of 30, so 4 touchdowns through one brutal pick at the end, but my God, they're
for a while he was,
he was like
didn't have an
18 and
incompletion.
19 and 19 or something like that.
By the way, I don't know if, since we're in a day of sadness, I won't get too excited about it, but ya boy.
I think you should get excited.
You toot on the scores.
Did you crush it? I'm winning too.
Yeah,
I did all right. Yeah,
yeah. I was 13 and 2.
I told you had one in you. I knew you had one in you, buddy. How'd you feel about that Chiefs one? Did you have that one?
Yes. Remember, you're like, don't do it. And I had
Patrick Mahomes, man.
I had the Chiefs.
Oh my God.
I had the Chiefs from the underdogs. I had Tennessee. I took Buffalo. Remember, we talked about like everybody. There's no way that Buffalo's not covering.
Right.
That was the Vegas one, and then they hammered. I had Houston. I was betting with my speaking from the heart. I had Washington covering, so I got very, very lucky.
Yeah, the Kansas City one was about as brutal as can be.
That was the right play. It was the right football play.
Unless you have Patrick Mahomes in fantasy, and unless you have Kansas City
on the scores.
Yeah. Then it's not the right thing.
I
did want to ask you this, though, because I do think there's something that you had said, and we'll hear from Coach in a second, that the expectation was Deshaun Watson was going to play Sunday. So then
the joy did not last long. We'll go right back.
I know,
we're
right.
Yeah.
Well, I do think we have to have this
No,
conversation, and then we'll have all the pure joy and all that.
Okay, all right, fine.
At the very least, from a criticism standpoint, I think it is fair to criticize the communication gap that occurred last week, because if there was even any inkling that he wasn't going to play, DTR should have had much more in terms of
he got the reps.
Well, right, but we were on here Friday saying that the walkthrough, all of that stuff was Deshaun. So
yes,
if all of a sudden like there should have been better. I think it's fair to question was the conversation, the dialogue, straight all the way through, or was it just hopeful? Was Deshaun hopeful he could go and then couldn't at the last minute? What changed? Because we, quite frankly, appeared very ill prepared to play a backup quarterback on Sunday. Fair?
I think that's fair. I think that, the expectation was that he was going to play. I think that the word shocked and stunned that he did not would be apropos in this situation. So
okay. So then that gets back to the communication issue that happened between somebody and you'll hear from Coach. He's Tony asks the question and he answers it, that he is medically cleared and all of that. So and obviously, and Coach gives the right answer. He says, look, he knows his body better than anybody else, and that's the deal.
I think that people,
but if he knew his body on Friday, then there should have been more for DTR a more real approach Friday and Saturday maybe, and maybe more of an expectation that Deshaun wasn't going to play. I do think that's worth questioning.
That's fair, but remember, even talking to Mary Kay Cabot at his locker room, and I want to say on Friday, he told her, I am going to play.
It could very well be on his end that the communication needed to be better.
Well, I think that that's fair. I think obviously he was a gamer. He wants to play. He's a guy that has played through, this is the first time he's missed a game due to injury since he tore his ACL in 2017. He's played with rib issues, lung issues, all of it. Drove 12 hours to Jacksonville. It was, again, like I said, it was a shocking development, and I do think it caught everybody off guard. And I think if you were going to say that should never happen in the NFL, you should be caught off guard for a circumstance, I think that seems fair. But like I said, I don't think anybody woke up on Sunday morning thinking he wasn't playing.
No.
So I think
there was a fail somewhere in there.
Yes.
For that to be the case and to be truly shocked that was the case on Sunday morning. And that's the thing. The good news is you're 2-2. And if you go, it sucks that you're 1-2 in the North, but 2-2 keeps your head above water. And the other thing about it is everything else that's going on in the AFC
couldn't have gone better for you.
It went pretty well. You're welcome from C.J. Stroud. You get Tennessee putting it on. The Bengals folks have huge issues. Burrow cannot drive the football down the field, and it's like they're trying to throw him.
So why is he playing?
I think they think he gives them their best chance, but the thing that they're trying to do is they're trying to throw him. It's like they're trying to throw him healthy. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. They can run it. They could run it against Tennessee. And instead, it's like I said, they were just trying to it seemed like to me like they were just trying to throw him healthy. It's the damnedest thing.
It is very unique. But
they have big problems, finite big problems. They go to Arizona this week, and then I think they got Seattle at home before their bye. So they have 2 more weeks before a bye. So they almost have to question, if you try to win at Arizona, then sit Burrow no matter what against Seattle to try to get him healthy. Pittsburgh is dreadful and was drilled.
That's the one. So what happened to us yesterday was tough to watch. It was awful, but I'm going to tell you, you line up DTR in his first start against Lamar Jackson, you're going to lose that game the majority of the time, period. Right? I mean, I just think that's fair. The game we look back in this opening quarter that got away from us was that Steelers game.
Yeah.
That's the one that if there comes a time where we, are ruining, that one game, that's the one we're going to be looking at. 100%. We should have beaten them. That would have put us 2-1 in the division, 3-1 at worst at the end of the first quarter. That was the one that really got away. What happened yesterday, I think we'll look back on with regret of how it unfolded and the surprise of how it unfolded. But I think that once it was what it was, that was going to be we were not the favorites to win that game anymore.
No.
So that was a tough one. You would have obviously liked it to give yourself a chance, but it felt like, as I watched that game, it felt like the only way we were going to win that game as it began to unfold was if we did what the Steelers did to us, which was turn 2 plays into 14 points when our offense was on the sideline.
No doubt. All right, you'll hear from Coach within the last hour. He was at the podium. The other thing that was just pure crud about this is everything else was perfect. The conditions were perfect. Hoff day. Like, everybody wins, and then you have that result, which just it sucks, quite frankly. You'll hear from Coach coming up next. The Hoff will join us. We'll go around the NFL as well. We're off and running. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. If your game plan for the season includes buying or selling a home, Howard Hanna has the answers, delivering a winning strategy from breaking down the game of real estate. As the market leaders in Northeast Ohio, more buyers and sellers trust Howard Hanna to their winning home team. Visit howardhanna.com/Go Browns today for more. And now here's Coach Stefanski at the podium.
Okay, injury front.
You're down.
Ethan Posick is dealing with a knee injury and a chest injury. He's day-to-day. If we had a game this week, likely wouldn't have made it, but good thing that we're on a bye this week. And then Miles is dealing with a foot injury, again, day-to-day, but feel good about him. Obviously, watching the tape, it's, you're disappointed, you're frustrated, but we got to own it. It's we share in the wins, we share in the losses, and we're a 2-2 football team, which means there's some good and there's some bad. So that's what this week is about, identifying some things that we need to do better and fix them. And that's what we're going to do. So watch the tape with the guys today, point it out, coach off of it, and get better next time. But with that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah, Kevin, just wondering, in light of what went down with Deshaun yesterday, I know you said there was no structural damage, but do you feel like, do you guys feel like you need to, over this bye weekend, look a little further into what's going on with the shoulder medically and make sure that everything is cool in there?
Yeah, I'm comfortable, Mary Kay, just with the medical. I know Deshaun, obviously, we talk with the doctors. We feel good about it. He's going to use this week to rest and continue to get treatment. But yeah, I feel like medically we're all on the same page.
Kevin, the bye week is usually the time of the season to acquire players if you feel there's a need. Backup quarterback at all in your thinking, or can PJ Walker be merged into a more prominent backup role?
Yeah, I think, coming off of yesterday, obviously Dorian's disappointed. That's the first outing for him. He will continue to get better. But that's really where my focus is, Tony.
One follow-up on Watson. You said yesterday pretty much it was his call. So he was medically cleared to play. If he would have said, I'm good, he would have played?
Yeah, yes. And let me say this, Tony. I mean, he knows his body. He's played through serious pain before, very, very serious injuries. It wasn't a matter of pain tolerance or anything. He just did not feel like he had his full faculties.
Yeah, Kevin, just to follow up on that real quick. You guys dealt with a similar situation with Baker, and I realize they're independent, but as far as, the players saying I'm okay, and typically players always leading up to a game say they want to play. Did you have any indications during that practice week, aside from him not being able to throw a lot, that there was a potential he would not be able to go? Because it seemed like Saturday night, the word coming from the team was you guys were really, really confident Deshaun was starting.
Well, we listed him as questionable. He didn't throw all week, and we had to get to the game, and that was the first time he was going to throw, to see ultimately how he felt, if he felt like he, could drive a throw, those type of things. So he was confident in it. Like I told you guys, he's disappointed. But I wouldn't make it any more than that.
And then just your thoughts that you going through the film this morning with DTR and what he wasn't able to do. Your thoughts change as far as how you approach that game, or do you think that if you could do it all over again, you just stick with what you ended up going with?
Well, if I could do it all over again, I think anybody coming off a loss would probably change some things up. That's my job. Our job as coaches, got to put these guys in position to succeed. Didn't do it enough yesterday.
Hey, Kevin. I know there's a lot of circumstances involved with the run game, losing Nick and Jack. But what can you guys do during the bye to stabilize it or improve it?
Yeah, we can be better, obviously. I trust in the guys we have. I trust in the scheme, those type of things. We're 4 games into the season. So it's an incomplete sample size to draw a ton from it, but we can be better. We will be better.
And, it feels like a lot has happened in these first 4 games. Does it feel like that way to you? And how do you process kind of everything that's gone on?
Yeah, it's the NFL. Honestly, Scott, every year we say it, you can't predict what's going to happen. That's why everybody tunes in. It's unscripted as far as I'm told.
Hey, Kevin, I was going to ask you about the offensive line, and Scott talked about the running game. What can you do to get on track? And you look at the numbers, and they had like 4 sacks and 10 quarterback hits, tackles for loss, a lot of them. Is there anything you can do on the offensive line and shuffle that around over the bye, or just correct it?
Yeah, we trust in the guys we have, Fred. I think we can play better, we can coach better, but we trust in the guys we have.
I've been going off of that with Elijah. What are you kind of seeing? Just I know yesterday, obviously, the circumstance with the loss for yards, but what have you just seen the way that he's handled his role and like kind of understood what needs to be done in the running back when you put him in those kind of situations?
Yeah, obviously, that was a tough play the other day, but we want to continue to get him the ball. He's gonna be a big part of what we do. He has versatility where he can line up in the formation, but we will do a better job of getting him the ball.
Following up on that, is it like a mindset shift at all, I guess, when you go from more of a like wide receiver role to then that kind of running back, and where he has to work on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think like anything, with your roles, you start to carve them out and they evolve over the season. Anytime you can do more, we're going to explore ways to get guys the football in different ways. But he's certainly works hard at learning his job and then doing his job as well.
Hey, Kevin, when you have uncertainty at the quarterback position like that, I mean, how much of last week did you spend kind of game planning with the idea Deshaun was going to play? And then how much were you able to actually adjust when you found out he wasn't going to?
Yeah, again, that's our job. Truly, it's our job as coaches. You put a plan together, and then the backups execute the plan, and then based on who's available to you, you adjust your game plan both during the week and in game. So, it's what happened yesterday was not an issue of not knowing if DTR was going to play. That was not it at all. We just have to coach better and play better.
Hey, Kevin. Obviously, Njoku was a late add to the injury report with that household accident. Did you get a chance to talk to him about it, and how is he feeling? And did he go to the hospital at all after what happened?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into specifics of it. I'll let Dave kind of handle that. With the result we had yesterday, it's hard to feel good about anything. But the way he played was unbelievable to me with what he went through. Not just the pass game, the run game. He's the first guy picking his teammates up off the ground. It felt like every single play. So he was a warrior yesterday. It was impressive to watch.
Kevin, the use of Harrison Bryant continues to be interesting to me. I'm wondering, that's a very slow developing, complicated play you had. Was that in the game plan? The flea flicker, I mean. Was that in the game plan for Watson or specifically for DTR?
I mean, it wasn't specific for Deshaun. It was just felt like we'd have an opportunity to take a shot there in that down the distance.
Hey, Kevin, I got one about Deshaun. I think you talked about letting it rip. And when we watched him throw Thursday, Friday, Sunday, like it never felt like he threw one full speed. Was he able to try that at all during the week?
No. Yeah. Ultimately, and that's, ultimately what we're trying to, give him an opportunity yesterday to see if he could.
30-30.
And then defensively, what did you think the issues were, especially in that second quarter where they had those 2 long touchdown drives?
Yeah, a couple different things. Obviously, they give them credit. The quarterback made a couple plays. That they ran the ball. They had a couple scheme runs that were good. We just got to correct them. That's what today is about. But, I thought by and large our defense, that's a tough out with that offense. I thought they competed.
You're up.
All right, coming up next, we will go around where we stand in the AFC North at our bye week. That is coming up next. You look at Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, now live in Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Pet Supplies Plus, giving you the chance to win tickets to home games all season long while providing the best details for your pet at over 75-plus locations in Ohio. Enter to win tickets at clevelandbrowns.com/Pet Supplies Plus. Receive a coupon to use at your local Pet Supplies Plus with your entry. Pet Supplies Plus, proud partner of your. I thought I was going to be able to do it. Close.
You were
Close.
there. You were right
Close.
at the end there.
It's the second one
You were on
that
the
gets you.
precipice.
I was right there.
Yeah.
Add precipice to that, and then try it.
You got to throw another P in there.
Throw it in there. See what happens. All right. So you get healthy in the bye week, or as healthy as you can get. From an injury standpoint, Deshaun will obviously rest and presumably be ready to go by the time he gets back. You would certainly think. Miles feels like nothing to be concerned about there. Posick, was there anything else injury-wise?
No. That's all the coach mentioned. Coach said if we had a game this week, Posick's probably not going. But
okay,
right now it's day-to-day. Miles, boot precautionary is what he told the media yesterday.
Okay. How did Nick Harris do coming in?
He did fine. He had one real nice block in pass pro, but our line struggled in general. I felt that there was too often that 4 of the 5 would have it working, and then one of them would not. And unfortunately, that was a problem. And I think we all know that there continues to be a big problem at left tackle. Jed Wills 6 more pressures allowed in this game. It's tough when you watch the tape back. There actually were some times where maybe we could have made some plays, and those were the ones where you would get hit with that early pressure, and it would completely disrupt whatever chance that you had. So it's been very unfortunate that that has happened. But I just wanted to throw one stat out real quick. We've given up 49 pressures as a team. 49. Jed Wills has given up 18 of them. 18 of 49. So when you think about every pressure that's credited to somebody on our team, he's been responsible for 37% of them. Now, that includes, that's talking wide receivers, tight ends, running backs who are giving up pressures. When you look at just on the line, the pressures given up by just people on the line, you're only knocking off about a handful of them, but it's 18 of about 44. It's got to get better. I mean, it is, and it's been disruptive to what we are attempting to do as an operation, and I think that's tough. DeJuan Jones gave up a couple pressures yesterday. We've done a bad job for whatever reason on the left side of the line, which is Jed and Joel together on those kind of just TE stunts, the twists, where the tackle goes up into the defense tackle goes up into the tackle, and then they loop around. And, Dorian was running for his life, got away from Clowney twice. Clowney should have had a couple of sacks in this one. But, yeah, that's tough. What's wild in this one, so DTR was under pressure on 44% of his dropbacks. That's just too high. You're not going to have success in the NFL doing that consistently. Now, on the other side, we came into it, one of our big keys of the game was what was pressure, on Lamar had been the worst. His rating was in the 20s. We pressured him on 46% of his dropbacks. We generated a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
He went 5 for 8 for 94 yards and a touchdown on those plays with a rating of 142. So
he looked like the MVP of the league. He looked a couple of years ago.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
And they had the answers to the test, it seemed to me. Now, the good news, and again, this is silver lining stuff, but it's worth mentioning, the division was really, really bad yesterday. So 4 weeks in to the season, Baltimore atop at 3-1. Pittsburgh is number 2. They're 2-2. We are tied at 2-2, but obviously we have the 2 conference losses or divisional losses, and the Bengals are 1-3. So it was one of those rare instances where you could watch our game and their game at the same time. One was on Fox and one was on CBS yesterday, so you could watch both games at once. And so I had them on, and they were far worse off even than we were, because they are playing Burrow, and they were hopeless. The Bengals were absolutely hopeless in this game. Did I say it wrong?
No, you just didn't. I didn't know if you could have watched the Steelers or
no.
The
it was Bengals. Titans on one, and it was Brown. It was our game on the other, and so and the other TV I had on Red Zone, so I was able to kind of keep track of everything that way. But Cincinnati is in a big deal of hurt with the Burrow situation, and it's grinding against everybody down there. Jamar Chase not pleased at all, as you can imagine.
He's open
post game because he's open a lot. Here is Jamar Chase. This was post game after a big loss to Tennessee.
How frustrating is that for you to be on the field and see things going the way they're going?
I just got to do what I can do, man. I'm trying to help the team, make the team as best as I can. That's my job. Anything else, you know what I'm saying, just be a teammate for my guys.
4 games this season. Do you feel like you've had less time to get open and create space for yourself?
Nah, I'm open. I'm always open. Excuse my profanity. I'm sorry.
T. Higgins is not. In fact, he went down yesterday in the game, so they're beaten up a little bit too, like we are, like everybody is. But they do have a major problem with Burrow's health. As I mentioned earlier in the show, they're Arizona and then Seattle. That's the next 2 weeks for them. They are 1-3, and then they get their bye week. But he cannot drive the football down the field at all. So they have no over-the-top pass game whatsoever.
It's wild because, they were very, very good at it. Now Higgins is down, and you feel like can't wait to get out of there. It's just crazy how quickly it is derailed for the Cincinnati Bengals.
His health. He cannot throw the ball down the field.
There are things going on, it feels like, much beyond
Well, I think that
health.
there is, I think it's a communication issue. I mean, you saw Mike Brown say, hey, pull him up to him on the golf cart, and I think the presumptive thinking was, hey, this is a long-term commitment. We don't need you playing.
Correct.
Don't come back until you're healthy. Burrow's playing despite it, which helps you win over a locker room, but also long-term for their health is not ideal in any way, because anytime I talk to anybody about the injury he has, they're always quick to say, look, this is going to be pain management the rest of the year for him. Like, it might not be right all year.
Well, it feels like, you said to the locker, it just feels like there's a lot of discontent.
Oh, that could be
discontentment in that locker room.
Could be lack of satisfaction with the coaching as well.
Sure.
So that could be the case. I mean, losing breeds that for sure. Pittsburgh was hapless yesterday. Just pathetic. They lost Pickett to an injury as well, yet somehow they're 2-2. Well, we know how somehow they're 2-2. Here was Mike Tomlin after the big loss down in Houston.
Will you contemplate any changes, or is it still too early? Regarding hell yeah, we got to make some changes, man. That was an ugly product we put out there today, and so we're not going to do the same things and hope for a different outcome. What those changes are, man, we'll put together a plan in preparation.
Man, I love that. I love that answer.
Hell yeah,
we're going to make some changes. We're not going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
They have some finite problems, obviously, offensively, and the Pickett injury will add to that. But
maybe they get better with Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think it could get worse.
Yeah, Stroud picked him apart. I mean, he hit guys in stride routinely in that game yesterday. Baltimore is, without question, as we sit here, the healthiest of the teams. Both, not necessarily on the field.
Even healthy.
They're beaten up, but just in terms of the look of their operation has been the most consistent through a month.
Yes. Our highs are higher than their highs, and they have not had the lows that we certainly have had, and we have had them. So it's frustrating. You absolutely are in a position where you could be 3-1, and you'd be fine with that. You'd say, okay, this game, we lost. I think the feeling would be so different, and there's so much frustration. I think there's so much, as my mom would say, angst in and around this fan base, and the tension and the nerviness, right, about this football team, that it almost feels like every week is a complete referendum on everything associated with the team, and that it feels like there's just a lot of pressure for this football team to be good, and justifiably so. There is justifiable pressure for this team to be good.
There's a nerviness.
Yeah.
There's a nerviness in the fan base.
Yes,
there's
absolutely.
a nerviness in the everywhere. I mean, these stakes are huge this year. There is a window. This was among the years in the window.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so even if it goes south in Cincinnati and this year is a lost year for them, they've been to a Super Bowl 2 years ago. They were in the AFC Championship game last year. Like, they've accomplished things that you'd love to accomplish around here.
Yes.
Of course, they haven't accomplished the ultimate prize of winning the Super Bowl, but they've gotten to that point, so there's good stuff in the bank. We don't have that.
Yes.
We need this year to go, and that's where it comes from. And that's why when you sit at 2-2 and you go, man, it's just opportunity lost is what it feels like.
Yes.
And so there needs to also be kind of a reworking of how we go about our business over the course of the next 2 weeks, because you do not have the incredible insurance policy that is Nick Chubb And so the way we kind of do our operation needs to be addressed probably too.
I still think that this team has a defense that is elite. I think that
There's no
you
question.
have a quarterback who has been elite in his career, and you saw the last time he played his best game as a Cleveland Brown, so that's encouraging to me. And that's what's going to have to carry this football team. It's going to have to be about, Deshaun Watson and this defense and playing complementary football. Our special teams units have been good. We haven't generated much in the return game, but our coverage teams have been very, very good. Our kicker has been very, very good. You get a schedule now. 49ers very difficult, right? The next 5 games, though, I think you've got to go 3-2 in these 5 games. And if you do that, then I think you're in a position where you're going to have a chance to make a nice little run as the schedule kind of lessens up a little bit. So you got Browns against the Niners at home, at Colts, at Seahawks, Cardinals at home. So it's the next 6 games. I'm sorry. You want to go 4-2, I think, in these if you can. At the Ravens, that'll be a tough one. Home for the Steelers.
All right. So to me, clearly the most winnable one, there are 2 that are just got to be, and that's Arizona and Indy. Those have got to be wins.
Yep.
The Richardson kid has flashes, but he's wildly inaccurate.
Yes.
So there's you should be able to. And then after that, you have 2 that are absolutely winnable because it's at Broncos, at Rams.
Well,
So
then you
that's
get Broncos,
very, very
Rams,
good.
Jags, Bears in the next 4.
Yeah. So
even
3
if you
out
go
of those
3,
4 should be wins.
Even if you go 3-3 and you're sitting at 5-5, I think you have a chance to still be a
playoff team.
Yes, absolutely. But if you could go 4-2 here,
yeah,
that would be a very, very good situation because then you get and then it's the Texans. After that, you go Broncos, Rams, Jags, Bears, Texans, Jets, Bengals. That's your final 7 games.
Yeah, I mean that feels like a 6-1 stretch.
We got to get there.
But you got to get there, and
the Niners will lose a game at some point this year. Maybe
they will.
This is it.
They're a full day though.
Oh, they are elite.
Yeah, they are the cleanest operation by a wide margin in the league.
Correct.
They're winning. It's dominant. It's dominant. They're doing whatever they want
on every level.
There's no question. At Seattle will be tough. At Baltimore will be very tough. But the rest of those you should handle your business a little bit. We'll see how it all goes. But I guess if you're grasping for straws and silver linings, and the one thing that is absolutely true a month in is this division isn't what we thought it would be.
This conference
too. But even in the quickest path to the postseason is to win your division.
Yep.
That Baltimore team has its own flaws, as good as they've been the first month. I agree with your point absolutely. The lows haven't been as low, but their highs haven't been as high. They haven't had like a totally clean operation yet.
No,
not by a damn stretch. Their cleanest was probably obviously yesterday. But Pittsburgh's got big problems, and Cincinnati's got monster problems. Like nobody would have thought Cincinnati would be 1-3 sitting here a month in, and worse than that, having complete uncertainty at quarterback with Burrow. So the division has come way down for what we thought it would be a month in.
Yeah, I mean, what's wild, too, the Steelers are 2-2, same as us. We are still positive 16 points in the differential. They're negative 38. There are only 4 3-1 teams in the AFC. You're only behind 4 teams, 1 game behind 4 teams, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Ravens, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Other than that, everybody's 2-2 or 1-3. There are no 4-0 teams. There are no 0-4 teams in the AFC.
Well, you think about it, like if we did that exercise of who thinks they're a Super Bowl contender, we absolutely would have considered Jacksonville in that, and they don't look it. Cincinnati, we would have been in it.
Denver.
In that. They don't look it. I mean,
we were
Denver's
all kind of
defense
thinking that Denver would rebound.
Well, because if Denver's defense was what it had been the last couple of years, which they made a change there with Vance Joseph, and it is not going well.
No.
Their offense is actually fine.
It's fine. Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, fine.
The Chargers are winning in spite of their coach.
The Chargers are good.
He did it again. You know what he did yesterday?
No.
Oh, Malencic told me this morning.
He did the same thing. Inside his own 30, couple of minutes left, he tries running the quarterback sneak with Herbert. And again, same. What did it end up final? They covered, I think, but it was
right because the guy threw an interception.
The guy threw a pick at the end.
24-17 was
okay. So it's 24-17. They've got the ball in like their own somewhere in the 20s, 4th and 1, and instead of punting it to a rookie quarterback who has to go the distance on you, he calls a sneak. They go for it. He calls a sneak. They don't get it. The Raiders then have the ball at the 20-some yard line going in to go tie the game. He did it again. He gets bailed out over and over again.
Because of his talented football team. That team wins in spite of him and every coach.
Herbert is so good, and they just they do not deserve that guy has no business.
How about Khalil Mack's 6 sacks in this game?
I mean, O'Connell had no chance. The kid was running from his life the whole time. The Raiders aren't very good, is the truth of it. But they should have absolutely boat raced him. But again, first play Herbert goes out. He's like this because he can't hear. It's a home game, and he can't hear because they're playing the Raiders.
Yeah, big well.
That's the way it goes. There's just no. But I mean, he did 2 weeks in a row. He did the same thing. No lesson is learned, and somehow he bails out on it. He gets bailed out twice on it. All right, we believe the Hoff will join us coming up next.
Either on the phone or in person here.
Very good. One way or another, the Hoff will join us coming up next. You have that to look forward to, which is very, very nice. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, now live in Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. The Browns avocados from Peru and Meyer want you to enter the Ultimate Football Sweepstakes for your chance to win a 2023 Ford Lightning electric pickup truck, a VIP tour of the Cross Country Mortgage Campus, or a $1,000 Meyer gift card. Visit your local Meyer, clevelandbrowns.com/avocados for more. And now joining us on the Twisted Tea hotline, the great Hoff, Joe Thomas. It was your day yesterday, buddy. I wish it could have ended a little bit better, sadly, but it still had to be a very special moment for you and the family.
Yeah, it was obviously a super special day, being able to get my Hall of Fame ring and have the whole family there. And I think for me, the highlight was probably running out of the tunnel with the kids in tow and my son trying to beat me. But I had to let him know right at the end, he's not got me yet. I still got to step on him. And so he still got to work on that speed just a little bit.
How is your youngest? Because it looked like in the midst of the tunnel, she took a little bit of got a little bump.
Oh, yeah, she took a digger. I didn't even realize it because I was kind of leading them through the tunnel.
Yeah, she was behind you.
It wasn't until the end. Yeah, she was right behind me, and the wife was like, "Oh, my gosh, did you see Reese?" I'm like, how am I supposed to see Reese out of the back of my head? And she's like, "Oh, she tumbled right away," and the poor kid was, like, crying, I think, on stage at the beginning. But she's a tough kid. Being number 4, as you know, you get beat up a lot. So she's used to scraping the knees and rubbing some dirt on and getting back in the game.
Joe, what has all of this been like? And I'm curious your view of it through your kids' eyes, because obviously when you played, they were so much younger, but now they will have full memories of all of this. What has this been like for you the past couple of months? And obviously the Hall obviously being the big moment, but obviously an incredible moment here yesterday. What has this been like to have your kids to share it with?
Yeah, it's just been incredible. I mean, being able to see how passionate they are as Browns fans and football fans is so cool, because when I was playing, like, they would come to the game, but they had no idea what was going on. They would wear the jersey because that's what mom put them in the morning. And, they're in their diapers. And we had some cool pictures of me with them at training camp and the game and stuff. But to see pure joy on their face, to be able to run out of the tunnel with them, and to wear their jersey, for them to ask to wear their Browns jersey and how proud they are of their dad, is all you ever want as a parent and as a father. And, as a player, especially as you go on in the years, you start thinking of, like, why am I doing this? What am I getting out of this? Why am I putting my body through this? And the big thing is, like, you're doing it for your family, you're doing it for your kids, and you're doing it for that next generation. So to see the pride in their eyes has just given me so much great joy through this whole process.
It's awesome, and I know how important it is to you and how special it is to you, and getting to go out there with them in front of the stadium. Did they think it was pretty cool to, like, see the stadium from the field, even though it was halftime, but to kind of have that experience?
They did, yeah. They love being on the field, and now that my son is, following his
a baller.
family footsteps as a baller on the flag football field, he loves being out there on the grass. Right, because the field we play on is literally just grass in a park that's got some paint on it. There's no goalposts, there's no bleachers, there's nothing.
Right.
It's just a square in white paint on some really shoddy grass and dirt. So to go out there and see the most pristine field in pro football and to be able to walk on that grass, I mean, the field in Cleveland Brown Stadium is amazing. I had people asking me when they installed turf yesterday, and I go, it's not turf, it's just the grass is so perfect, it looks like turf. And so for a young kid to be out there and to be able to chuck the football around, I mean, he's on cloud 9, which is cool because you do, as a player, you're around it so much, you start taking stuff for granted. And I'm sure players that have kids that are a little bit older that come to everything and they're going to the games and they're on the field all the time, you start to take it for granted. It's just human nature. So it's cool to see that since he doesn't really experience it all the time, he still appreciates the heck out of it like it's his first time.
Well, and he got the full spectrum then yesterday with the good and the bad
and
of it. Hoff. It just sucked. I mean, you lose Watson early, and then it just felt like there was no backup plan if he wasn't able to go. And obviously, they fully anticipated him playing. We've heard from Coach earlier that they anticipated him playing, and it was just something they just could not overcome. What did you make of the approach and what you saw on the field from the Browns yesterday?
I was with you guys. I mean, I was shocked based on what we saw from DTR in the preseason. It seemed like the moment wasn't going to be too big for him. He was going to be accurate, operate pretty efficiently. I mean, you kind of assumed that you would see somewhat of the same version of what we saw in preseason. And I know it's preseason football. I get it. We had a game when Brandon Whedon was first here that he lit it up in the preseason, and we were like, okay, here we go. Now we're going to do it. But you do realize that the preseason, there's not really game planning, so they're not trying to take away your strengths and attack your weaknesses. You're not playing as many starters. So there's obviously a lot of difference. But, I still had a lot higher expectations, and I kind of assumed that as long as DTR didn't turn the ball over, he was going to make enough plays with his legs to be able to keep us in there. And our defense was going to keep it a low-scoring game, and which, by and large, I think the defense did a good job. It wasn't their best outing, just because they were on the field the whole time.
Yeah.
So it was definitely disappointing, and it was frustrating, and you start to get nervous, like, hey, if DTR is going to be our guy and have to play a little bit more, Deshaun's hurt for any length of time, like, is he going to be able to jump out of this and be the guy we thought he was going to be when he was playing really good football for us in the preseason and led us to trade Josh Dobbs away?
Yeah, and it just felt like you're going against a very professional team in the Baltimore Ravens that are always good. And I have a question for you. When you have guys, you're a rookie quarterback, and when you work in the middle of the field, and that's what he was trying to do, I feel like it takes such subtlety, right, to be able to use your eyes to move the linebackers out of your throwing lanes and throw it in. And I think that's something that veterans, learn how to do at a high level over time. But when you're a rookie and the guy on the other side, you got Roquan Smith that you're dealing with and Patrick Queen, it felt like it was just so tough to get anything going in the middle of the field because it felt like they knew what we were doing by reading the body language and the eyes of a young quarterback. Did you see that same type of thing happen in the game, and how difficult is that? That's a tough matchup, I think, for a quarterback, the quarterback of the defense, that Mike linebacker, when he's as good as Roquan Smith.
Yeah, middle of the field is really tough just because of all the bodies you have. And when they're changing between split safety and post safety defenses, the responsibilities for certain areas and zones in the middle of the field, they're changing constantly. So it can be difficult if you haven't been in that situation a lot for a quarterback to know, all right, let's say I want to go back to my number one read who's on the right side. I need to look off this guy. This is the player. I need to extend my eyes in that direction to create the space so I can come back and throw the football, let's say, in that curl area to a team player or whoever's going to be on the other side. But if you're having a hard time recognizing what coverage it is, they're doing a good job disguising. You don't maybe necessarily know right off the bat who I'm supposed to give eye disguise to. And then as a young player, you can panic a little bit. And all of a sudden now you're like, I just want to make sure he's open. So now you're staring down your receivers. Yep. And then you're falling right into the hands of what the defense wants you to do.
Joe, and look, you got a rookie quarterback. That's going to be a learning curve on that. The thing that I think was also disappointing was just an inability to get the run game going at all. And some of that is the reality of you no longer have Nick Chubb, and that's something that we certainly have to acknowledge. The best running back in the league is not playing here for the rest of the season due to injury. But also it doesn't feel like we're blocking up front the way that we are accustomed to under Bill Callahan. What did you see?
Yeah, obviously the run game just looks different when Chubb's not in there because he was the guy that made a run that was only blocked for 1 yard, go for 4, because of his ability to find the crack and then make people miss or just drag guys forward for a couple of yards. Now, Jerome Ford's not the type of guy who's going to be dragging a lot of defenders, but he's still got some speed. He's got some quicks. I think it's probably a combination of both. Like, the holes weren't quite there. I don't think they quite figured out what Jerome is best at. And so you saw a couple of flashes, but overall the run game just wasn't there. And that was the only thing that could have saved you on a Sunday when your quarterback really wasn't playing good and you realized that, hey, he's just not going to be able to throw the ball much in this game, and we're going to have to win it running the football.
So this run blocking scheme, and we do a variety of things in it, right? It feels like when you go back and watch it on tape, Hoff, and in the run game, it really does take all 11. It feels like one guy's blocking the wrong guy. You have two guys going to one guy when there are two guys that needed to be blocked. It feels like we're just making almost kind of in real time mental errors. Why is that happening?
Yeah, so I'll say when you spread people out and you get defenders out of the box, so if you go 4 receivers or even 3 receivers, but you're spreading them wide.
Yeah.
The box 7 guys or the 6 guys that are up front that you're going to be responsible for blocking are very clear because if they're in the box, they're probably responsible for a tight end or a running back, or they're part of the run defense. If they're not, they're probably in coverage. So you can kind of draw a line in the sand, and you know who to worry about. And so if a guy changes position, now you have to communicate and change your blocking assignments or exchange them. It's pretty easy because there's not as many of those. But when you start running some of these concepts with multiple tight ends, or your receivers are a nasty tight split, so they're a little bit closer, now it becomes a little cloudy as who you have to block. So you got to do a lot more zone blocking. And so with Nick Chubb, it was great because he was really good at the pinpull stuff, right? And our guards are great at that. And that was sort of what we became very well known for, famous for. I don't know if Jerome's the best at those concepts. And on top of that, if there was a guy that was unblocked because of a mental error, a lot of times Nick Chubb was so good he'd just make a miss, or he would break the tackle. But we don't have that horse right now in the backfield. So a guy that they screw up a communication because the defense moves, or there was not clarity about who's supposed to double to which guy, that guy comes free, and now it's a 8-yard loss or a 20-yard loss if you're running a reverse, versus Nick Chubb kind of erases it and plays that magic eraser role, and you don't even realize it, and so it's not something that sticks out in your mind at the end of the game.
Huff, Jed Wills, the struggles are continuing. 6 pressures in this one. He's been responsible for, on Pro Football Focus, of the assigned pressures for the Cleveland Browns. He's responsible for nearly 40% of them himself. He had multiple penalties yesterday. He got beat badly in the run game, causing a couple negative runs. What are you seeing from him, and how does this get fixed? Because, if you're getting, I don't care who you are. Lamar Jackson was the exception to the rule yesterday, looked like the former MVP, but when you're under pressure on 50% of your dropbacks and a lot of runs, you're taking contact in the backfield, you're not going to be a good offense. And a lot of it seems like it's coming from that left side in Jed Wills.
Yeah, it seems like the confidence is not there. The communication has not been there. I thought he played a good game last week. I'll be the first to say it. Against the Steelers, he had that critical mistake that led to the loss.
Yep.
And I was hard on him. I thought overall the game against the Steelers actually was better than the perception, because one play does define a game for you. But to your point, unacceptable lack of communication at times.
Yeah, and the stunts, like basic stunts.
Yeah. Game. Basic stuff. And I worry that sometimes things snowball, and you got to find a way to stop the bleeding. That's the first thing you got to do in your own mind. It's like as a cornerback, if you get deep for a touchdown or you get a bad penalty, you got to forget about it. You got to just go to the next play. And sometimes he doesn't seem to be able to do that. I think about one of the plays, it was just a weak side zone, and Jed in his mind thought Joel was working with him. But I didn't talk to either of those guys, so I don't know what the communication was, but clearly Joel and the center thought they were working defensive tackle to the linebacker, and Jed took a wide footwork to be able to double team and reach block the defensive end, thinking Joel protected his inside. Well, Joel wasn't there because the communication wasn't there. They weren't on the same page.
Yep.
The defensive end runs in the backfield, tackles are back for -7. Jed looks confused or lazy, like he doesn't know what he's doing, but it was just a matter of not communicating to your guard and being on the same page. Like, hey, are you working with me or am I by myself? Because if I'm by myself, I got to take tighter footwork and I got to wheel and turn if this guy makes an inside move on me, and I can't just keep working at the second level. So being on the same page is so important. And in their fourth season working together, you have to have the expectation that they're going to.
Yeah, there's no question. The other thing, Hoff, and that we're a month into this thing, so I think there are, and obviously Deshaun yesterday is an enormous factor, but with the loss of Nick Chubb, I'm wondering where the explosive plays are going to come from offensively, because we haven't really seen those yet either. Obviously, you hope Watson can do that when he returns and he's healthy, and I want to ask you about that in a second. But in terms of where this roster is without Nick Chubb's explosiveness, do you have to have that? I mean, you watch Buffalo, you watch Kansas City, you watch the teams that you're trying to track down. They all have that home run ability. I'm wondering where it comes from for us.
I think you have to have explosive plays in today's NFL. It's hard to go 8, 10, 12 plays and 80 yards. It's not realistic because defenses are so good that even if you start a drive and you've got a theme going, they know how to quickly go to a different scheme on defense to stop what you're doing, and it exposes them in other areas, and you got to be ready to adjust. but you have to have that big playability to be able to score in 1 or 2 plays on a drive, to be able to keep yourself in some of these games that maybe the run game isn't working. And so I think the hope is that Deshaun's back. It's when he scrambles, gets outside the pocket, and you got this talented and fast receiving core that's going to be able to break open and get behind the defense because they are so fast, with Elijah Moore and Marquise Goodwin. But you're right. You haven't seen it. And if there was ever a game that you wanted to see it, it would have been this week with no running game and with a quarterback that's struggling to do anything consistently completing the football.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think that, sometimes the shot plays have been there, and Hoff, it does feel like, take even, for example, I thought it was a brilliant play design to go with Harrison Bryant in the sneak, and then he pitches it back to DTR, and you have Amari Cooper running in for an easy touchdown. And again, DTR's got to heave it because one guy breaks down in pass protection. All of a sudden, then he's forced to kind of throw that one on the run. You get the pass interference, but it does feel like whenever we get ourselves in good opportunities for big plays, chunk plays down the field, those are the plays where our protection, one guy gets beat, and all of a sudden it throttles the play. And I think that we talk all the time, football's the ultimate team sport, and it feels like we cannot get out of our own way in those situations. And really, that's been the theme of the season, right? Losing the turnover battle every game. We haven't been able to get out of our own way, and yet we're still 2-2 and are probably all pissed that we're not 3-1.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable to sit right at 2-2 thinking, especially that you couldn't have done anything more to try to lose the Steelers game.
Yep.
And had it not been for a bad call from the officials at the end of the game, you still might probably win that game.
Yep.
And so I think maybe there's the glass is half full perspective thinking about it that way, but certainly the frustration has to be building and the sense of urgency has to as well, knowing that this is a really talented team. You're 2-2 and you haven't done hardly anything that a good team does. Protect the football, make the plays in the critical moments, being able to execute and capitalize on the opportunities. Like, they've done none of those things on offense, and yet you're still 2-2. So, hey, is that something that should panic us, or should it make us hopeful and optimistic for the future? I'll let the fans at home decide that one.
Yeah.
Hoff, Nathan and I talked about this off the top. I want to get your view on it as well. We were all expecting, I think, that Deshaun Watson would play on Sunday. He went out, he gave it a couple of throws and said, I can't, and I'm not questioning, he knows his body better than anybody else. But should a discussion be had, and should there one be had behind closed doors, maybe not even publicly, about the dialogue between player and coach? Because it does feel like the Browns were very much anticipating him playing on Sunday, and I don't know if they were even considering it would be that close of a call on Sunday.
Yeah, just being at the practice on Saturday and talking with Coach Stefanski, I think there was no doubt in anybody's mind that Deshaun was going to play. Now, I wasn't there for practice this week, and so I guess I didn't see him. And I'd heard he really didn't take many throws. And I think the anticipation was, hey, we're not going to throw you this week a whole lot. Get that shoulder right. We feel comfortable with our plan that once Sunday comes around, you'll be able to take all the throws. And then when Sunday came and he came out for warm-ups, he just didn't have the arm strength get it there because of that shoulder injury. I don't know what the full plan is, but certainly they need to do some after-action report and look back and say, okay, this can't happen again. We spent the whole week preparing, planning, game planning that Deshaun's the quarterback, and all of a sudden it's not fair to our rookie backup to put him in the game, to throw him out there against one of the better defenses in the NFL without having taken the reps during the week, without having thrown with his receivers, and without a game plan that fits what he does well. As much as him and Deshaun are fairly similar as far as their skill level, their talents, like both fairly good scrambling, throwing quarterbacks, but still they do things differently, and there's plays that DTR are going to be comfortable with that you want to put in your game plan to give him the best opportunity for success. And so having a situation like that is the worst-case scenario for a rookie and for this team. And so you got to figure out, hey, where did we go wrong? Because clearly there was either an anticipation or an expectation mistake, or there was a communication error that Deshaun or somebody was giving us news and feelings that Deshaun was going to be going, and then something happened and he couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And how take us into the mind of players, because the bye week is here. You know you've got the Niners coming to town, who right now I think it's pretty safe to say is the best and most complete team in the National Football League. To us, it feels like in the media and the fan base, right, the loss going into a bye week lingers so much longer because you don't have the ability to kind of flush it, turn the page, get ready for your next opponent, and then play later that week. Whereas the win, it feels like, would last just as long, the 2 weeks as well. As a player, did you guys ever think about that, like going in the bye week, that going in on a win or a loss, that it mattered at all, or is it just kind of get away from football and then come back and get back into the routine?
So I think having a win going into a bye week was always important for me for a lot of reasons. One, usually your coach was a little bit more lenient and nice as far as how many days you got off and how they took care of the body, whereas you got your butt whipped. They were pretty likely to make you have some pretty tough practices, and it was like payback time for the coaching staff, and they were going to be grumpy all week. So obviously you wanted to try to avoid that, but I think for the most part, players do a pretty good job of realizing, hey, this is my one chance to have a mental refresh during the season. So no matter what happens on Sunday, at some point in the next couple of days, you got to get your mind away from football. You got to find a way to unplug, to be able to recharge your batteries, because when we come back, it's full go the rest of the season. And there's a long season ahead with a lot at stake, and we're right in the midst of it. And so you got to find a way to be able to forget about this and not let it linger. Now, you want it to sting so that it motivates you to make the corrections you need to be better when you come back. But you do, by the time, whenever they're fully off, I'm not sure what their schedule is like this week, but whenever they're able to get away from the building, they need to do whatever they can to unplug, get away so they recharge that mental battery.
Yeah, it is. And Z and I went over the schedule. Like, it's brutal coming out, but then it's a pretty soft last 7 games. So everything that you want to accomplish is there for you. You just have to get rolling in the right direction here when you come back from the very, very early bye week. Still so much more to come with the Hoff. We will continue with this, the NFL at the quarter mark of the season. We will get to that as well. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns, now live in Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Does your furry friend have what it takes to beat out the competition? Under the Dog Race Sweepstakes presented by Milkbone for a chance to have your pup compete in the annual halftime dog races. Visit clevelandbrowns.com/contest to enter and check out more from Milkbone at your local grocery and pet supply store. The Hoff now in studio with us, fresh off the boat.
Yes.
Victorious.
A great
Got my
Hoff.
fishing flannel on.
No
Got
ring.
my-
Where's the ring, Hoff? I was ready to be blinded
Yes,
by it.
yes. I was planning to bring it, but the busyness of the morning and the scatteredness of everything that happened, especially with a cigar and beer hangover this morning, I was like, all right, I can't bring the ring fishing because
Not on the boat.
You're certainly going to go reach in to
No.
grab the 10-pound walleye and forget about it, and whoop, she goes
Can't
to the
have that.
bottom of Lake Erie, and I don't know if you'd find that one. So I
No.
was like, all right, maybe after the show I can like race home, and no. It didn't work, so we'll have to wait till next time.
I will tell you
Leave
this.
you wanting more.
From the booth, I could see it like sparkling yesterday.
Yeah.
So what is it? Describe it to us.
Significantly larger than I expected.
Huge.
Cut that one up, Gibby, and you can use that for the rest of the season. It is huge. It looks a lot like, honestly, a Super Bowl ring. Not that I have one, but size-wise, it's uncomfortable to wear on your finger because it's so large.
Yeah.
It's got a beautiful blue, some type of stone, and then a big, beautiful diamond in the middle with diamonds everywhere. It's got your Hall of Fame bust on one side. It says Pro Football Hall of Fame, which I think is really cool.
So cool.
And I think it was lost on me a little bit that it's not the NFL Hall of Fame. It is the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which just that little nuance is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And after getting it and going back up to the suite that we were in with all of our family, it was really special for me to be able to give it to my mom, have her put it on her finger, take a picture, give it to my dad, give it to my in-laws. My kids all wanted to take a picture. And whenever you can still do something that makes your kids and your parents proud, that is athletic, even though I've got no more athleticism in my body, it feels really good. It feels really good. And that was special,
why.
like just to see how cool they thought that was.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, because
No Hold on a second. No athleticism left in him, but get
athletic
out of
he might
here.
be
adjacent.
playing
Get
left
out of
tackle
here.
in a month and a
Get
half.
out of here. Guy's got a 38-pack right now.
Let me ask
no
you this.
athleticism.
Did you know that the ring came with the jacket when you first found out?
I did not really know about that.
Neither did I. I never heard of a Hall of Fame ring. You get the gold jacket.
Yep.
I had no idea that there was a ring.
And the
to it.
jacket is amazing. And it's cool being relevant and recent that you come to an event and they ask you, hey, can you wear the jacket? So it gives you a great opportunity. But I know that's going to wear off. Like, I'm not going to be wearing the jacket at date night at the country club with the wife. Like, there's only a few places. All right, maybe I will.
I was gonna
Maybe I
say,
will.
you might
I'll
wanna
wear it
rethink that.
date
Who gets
night
hurt?
at
Yeah,
my
not
house,
you.
maybe. See what happens.
A little Christmas dinner at the club.
That's
Who
right.
gets
I'm
hurt?
like, all right, Christmas dinner might be allowed. But I feel like the opportunity to wear that jacket is probably going to be fewer and fewer other than Hall of Fame or like football, Brownsy type events. But with that ring, like you can wear that a little bit more often.
Yeah.
And I feel like, especially when you're around your kids or something like that, where they want like, come on, Dad, wear your ring. It gives you a great opportunity to have something a little more subtle than a giant gold jacket with a 6 foot by 6 foot patch on my breast.
As subtle as a giant diamond encrusted ring can be.
All right,
right?
not so subtle, but more subtle than a gold jacket.
Did you know the rings?
I didn't.
didn't.
I did know that people who went in the WWE Hall of Fame got a
Oh.
Hall of Fame ring, but I
Okay.
did not know.
No, I
for
didn't. I thought it was
for
the
Pro
jacket
Football
and-
Hall of Fame. Yeah, the jacket. I mean,
What more?
jacket, what more do
yeah,
you need?
it's amazing.
The
It's
jacket
an
is elite.
Incredible bonus. We
It
are
is a great bonus.
We are what amounts to be a quarter of the way through the NFL season. It kind of seems, guys, that the overwhelming thing that jumps to my head as I say that out loud was just the injuries. Tre'Davious White down yesterday. We have had the most significant injuries. Rodgers on opening night. Nick Chubb, which we saw, just a ton of injuries. Conklin, so many injuries around the league. For just a quarter in, does it seem like it is more than normal, or am I just maybe just because it hit us so hard?
Yes and yes.
Yeah.
Injuries are weird. It's like memories. Like everyone always says, oh, the time went so fast. Like for me, I can't believe I've been retired 6 years. I can't believe my rookie year was 16 years ago, because you remember just like big moments through time. And so with injuries, those are big moments in your season and big moments in the NFL season. So you just remember them. They're in the front of your mind. And I do remember, though, almost every year of my career thinking the exact same thing. Man, I can't believe how many injuries there are. It seems like more people are getting injured this year. Now, I don't know if that's just my perception, but I would love if the NFL, and I'm sure they're following it, just to kind of see, like, are there really more injuries right now? Are there less injuries? Or is it just more to key players? Or is it just always the way it is because they're so devastating to a team and a franchise? and they're so in your face with NFL news that we think about it that much more, and so we have this perception that there's always more injuries every year.
And fantasy, I think fantasy has a lot to do with it.
The significance of the injuries are what hits us this year. Is I mean, you're talking about faces of the league with Nick and Rodgers.
You lost Aaron Rodgers, who was the story of the league. The Jets were the story of the league, and then that's just been completely derailed, vaporized in 4 plays. I mean, vaporized. So I think we have this conversation at this time of year every single year.
I feel like
it's always there's so many. It is a tough game, and in many cases, it's the best team, but it's also the team that can stay the healthiest that is going to ultimately have success in this league.
All right, quick hitters. Most impressive team through 4 games.
San Francisco.
Niners, easily. I think second is 8th. I would, if the Dolphins had gone up to Buffalo and won that game, they would be the other answer.
Yeah.
But the way that the Bills throttled them was pretty impressive.
I'm going to throw a wild card out there for you guys, the Lions. Now, I'm biased because I just did their game on radio on Thursday.
Yeah.
But they
a
look
lovely job, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
much help from the great Z over here, the experienced pro. But seeing them in person and seeing their balance, to me, it reminded me of 49ers light. It was diet 49ers because they run the football. They're physical. They don't spread you out as much as San Francisco does because they like to play a little bit more condensed with extra tight ends. But the same creative type horizontal run scheme, play action pass, tough defense. Like, that's going to be a tough out. And I don't know where the season goes. I think injuries are going to play a large part. But they look good from top to bottom.
And they're going to add Jameson Williams to that mix, which is going to give them a whole
That's
level.
That's the only thing the offense doesn't have is that deep threat right now, that field stretcher.
Well,
they'll get it
now. He's back.
2 more games.
It's going to change the rule.
Right?
No, he's back.
No, 6 games.
No, they changed the rule.
When?
Like
Friday at
5 o'clock. They changed the gambling rule effective immediately. Jameson Williams was reinstated.
There's like
he's
two
playing
or
this
three.
week.
I didn't hear
There's 2 or
that.
3 guys that
Yeah.
can start today.
It's
Stop
2
it.
Lions.
In terms of
It's the 2
working out.
Lions.
Are you kidding
They
me?
didn't
adjusted
Friday
the gambling
5:30
policy.
news drop.
Yes,
they
they
addressed
changed the
adjusted the
gaming.
gambling.
How about
Yes,
that?
they changed the policy, and
Proactively.
Jameson Williams is reinstated.
Retroactively.
Jameson Williams is playing this week.
That's outrageous.
Wow.
He's back, baby.
Wow.
And as somebody who has him in every single fantasy football league because they're all
Yes,
keeper
that's
leagues,
right.
and I waited last year, it didn't work out. I said I'm going to redraft him again
Dealing
this
with
year.
it, yeah.
He's back, baby.
Wow. Jonathan Taylor,
So-
by the way, also back. His practice will open on Wednesday.
Taylor can be back. Cooper Kupp can be
Yeah,
back.
they said the biggest change made, changing the punishment for players who gamble on non-NFL games at the facility from 6 games to 2 games.
Yeah, so he should have actually only been out 2 games. So now it's 2 games. I think then it goes like to 6, and then it's a year or something like that if you're third
I'm sure
offense.
they'll get him his money back.
They
for the games he
also
was
they also
suspended
agreed to
and
reduce the
apologize.
suspensions for 3 players who were suspended a few weeks ago for gambling on non-NFL games from 6 games to 4 games.
Wow.
Was that an arbitration thing, or did the NFL just
They
revisit
just-
their policy
They met
and
with
did
the
it on their own?
players union, and something came out of this. It was literally at 5:30. Zagura's right. Like Adam Schefter's like, oh, by the way, this happened too today, and
Wow.
these guys were all back
yeah,
on
J-Mo's
Monday.
back,
and I was
baby.
like, wait, what?
And then they changed it. If you bet on the NFL, they made those penalties much harsher now. First one's a year, second one is 2 years, third is lifetime
You're
ban.
done.
You're done.
Wow.
That seems
Banishment.
fairer.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they should be able to bet on anything that isn't in the NFL. I don't think.
Yeah,
they
I
should. And I
agree.
don't care where they like. Why is it okay if I'm doing it?
Yeah.
2 minutes away,
Sure.
as opposed to in this parking lot? Like, what
Yeah,
difference
I
does it
agree.
make?
And they clearly have admitted that it's not as big of a deal by reducing the suspension. So it's almost like, well, why is there even the rule then?
Yeah. Most disappointing team through the first quarter.
Well, it's the Jets, and it's not their fault.
Take injury out of it.
Take injury out of it. Most disappointing team. Well, would you say that Joe Burrow's played every game? So does he count as being injured? Because it's the Bengals.
Well, that's a big. I don't know if you had it on in the suite by chance, but they cannot press the ball down the field at all. Nothing. They can't do anything deep. It was kind of a coaching malfeasance. It reminded me of what happened with Justin Fields here a couple of years ago, where they just. It's like they're trying to throw him healthy, Joe. It's the craziest damn thing, and he's not. So it's they have real big problems. Like we're 2-2. We wish we were 3-1. Feel like we should be 3-1.
Yes,
they're 1-3, and are maybe lucky they're 1-3.
Well, they rely so much on the quarterback doing superhuman things with his decision making and his accuracy and distributing the football to his playmakers that when you lose just a little bit of that, I mean, it totally cripples the entire team. Now, their defense was very well balanced and well rounded, and they could kind of play that matchup game because they could be whoever they wanted to be. But I think the loss of their 2 safeties, honestly, is a very underreported story right now because that defense was really. I mean, that got him to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Those guys had 8 interceptions combined last year.
And you lose, you gut the middle of your back end like that. It's tough to recover from, especially you compound that with now your quarterback's not the same guy he was last year.
I love that he said that because remember, we were interviewing somebody from the Bengals.
Jay Morrison.
And I was like, I feel like nobody's talking about the fact they just got rid of their starting safeties and everything's going to just be fine. Like, it's all going to be fine. We got a journeyman 5th rounder from the Rams who started 1 year in Scott, and then Dax Hill didn't really play much, and obviously they drafted him for succession planning and that. But yeah, I thought it was wild that it's just like, everything's just going to be great.
Everything's fine.
Are your runner-ups for that, for your little thing? The Vikings, Chargers, Jags.
Chargers are 2-2.
Chargers are. If you watch the Chargers play,
Broncos,
the positions that coach puts them in.
Broncos. I was going to mention the Broncos.
Broncos defense is massively disappointing.
I thought the Bears would struggle. They felt like a team that would struggle to me. But Denver being that bad, they're really fortunate.
I'll give you another one, and I know they're 2-2. But the fact that the Atlanta Falcons did what they did is by the week becomes more insane. Bijan Robinson's awesome. I'm not saying that he's not. I think he's a tremendous player. But the fact that they did not get a quarterback that could even play.
2 straight drafts, buddy. They could have done it the year before when they drafted
Pitts
Drake London.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Could have done it 2 years in a row. They could have got
if I'm the Bears right now, okay, I have my pick and I have Carolina's pick.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, you want to go 1-2. You want to go Williams and Marvin Harrison. So those are the 2 winless teams in the NFL. So it's in play, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you just say, let's just send Fields. If I'm Atlanta, I'm like, we'll take your guy. Go tank. Give us Fields. Give me a chance.
He might thrive in that offense too.
And you put him in a dome. You put him in a fast track. You've got big weapons. Pitts is huge. Drake London is huge. You've got big targets. So if he's not the most accurate, like you got guys with big catch radiuses. I don't know. I mean, why would you not? I think them not going for Lamar Jackson when it was like in play that Lamar Jackson could be on the move last year is crazy. You put Lamar Jackson on that Falcons team, they're the 3rd best team in the NFC.
Don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. What do you make of the fact that Bill Belichick got beat the worst he's ever been beaten as a head coach on Sunday?
What I've always said about Bill Belichick is that he's the greatest coach of all time, but the difference between him and number 2 is very small. And the credit he got between the difference between him and number 2 was that there was this chasm, but it wasn't like that. You just didn't realize it because he had Tom Brady, who was the ultimate eraser. And so now that you don't have that guy at quarterback, even though he's still a great coach, the tiny mistakes that Belichick has made in personnel, they're coming back to –
they're large.
All right, large
and
mistakes.
Consistent.
Yeah, inconsistent.
The GM.
You can't overcome that stuff.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they're getting their butts beat in and they don't look like there's any hope and that they've got no playmakers, it's not a surprise to me at all because I've been saying it for a while. Like, Belichick's amazing. But him versus you pick a middle-of-the-road coach in the NFL, it's not that big of a difference. But being there for a long time, having a system that people just plug into, having Tom Brady, making sure that everybody falls in line with everything they do, that was their secret to success.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they're struggling without Brady is not a surprise to me.
So they had he and Joe Montana, the 2 GOATs. They had one of the 2 GOATs at quarterback, and he never put them in a financial situation. That's one of the, I think that's the most underreported things about his career is that he never was – he always kept himself kind of in the middle of the pack with the way he did his
Never demanded
contract.
to be the highest paid.
No.
Manning's did.
No.
He did not.
Yeah, he did not.
No.
To me, that's kind of what led to his departure a little bit. He was always like, I'm taking less money. I'm doing all these things for the franchise, and you still don't give me any love. You still don't respect me the way I should be respected.
Yeah. No, I think it contributes as well. All right. Gibby wants to know your top 4 teams in the NFL at the quarter pole.
Top 4?
Top 4.
San Francisco, Miami, Philly, Kansas City. Actually, I should probably put Buffalo in over Miami because they just slumped them. So Buffalo, which are basically the 4 teams we thought at the beginning.
How odd is that Buffalo loses the opener after Rodgers goes down and has been slump city since?
Yeah.
They've dominated people
Wrecked
since.
people.
Yeah, since. They've ridiculous.
Hard to argue with anybody there. I would still keep Miami in there because
they're the top 5. I think those 5 are in a class.
I think there's recency bias. Obviously, if you're a Bills fan, you're going, well, come on, we just beat them. But I still think what Miami has been doing is something that's going to carry through as a theme the whole season. And yeah, they lost this one, but I think overall, if you give them 5 head-to-head matchups with the Bills, I think Miami's going to win 3 out of the 5.
I'm curious to see.
So your 5th was Dallas?
No, my 5th would be Miami.
San Francisco, Buffalo, Kansas City, Miami. Who am I missing?
Philly.
Oh, Philly, yeah.
I think those 5 teams are.
Philly still is not.
No, but
they haven't gone yet.
They have not gone, and they're undefeated.
They haven't gotten going the way that they should.
No. And yet
they haven't lost.
They have not lost. Never lost.
No, never lost.
But I think that's kind of that team, though. They're a find a way to win team. They're a balanced team. Their quarterback's good, but he's never going to be Patrick Mahomes. And so they're going to just be able to kind of morph a little bit and win however they have to. And I think that's kind of like their superpower, is they don't have to beat you one way.
No, they can beat you in a lot of ways, but
they have some things that
they
travel,
have not clicked yet on offense, and when they do, then they can start slumping people.
As
again.
he always says, they start every series 1st and 9.
That's true.
So that helps. They block it, and they get
that's a good one.
That Jalen Carter dude is a game wrecker in the middle. That defense.
They lose Hargrave, and they just add.
It's like, here's the
replace
best
him.
overall player in the draft. We'll just throw him in there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were to bet your vast estates, it's got to be San Francisco and Kansas City, isn't it? Like, are you really going to bet against Mahomes?
That's what
Getting
you like
back
right
to the
now.
Super Bowl?
I mean, right now, if there aren't catastrophic injuries to those teams, if the Super Bowl teams do not come from those 5 teams, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Shocked.
Yeah. I mean, it feels
Maybe
like there's
Detroit.
real separation there. The Dallas injuries were pretty brutal in terms of.
And what happened against Arizona? It's just too burned into my memory to forget.
Totally.
Like, this team is trying to lose, and you got your butt stomped.
You laid
by
an
them.
egg.
Stomped.
You laid an egg.
They play the Niners this week on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good one. Oh yeah.
So that'll be
fun to
That's going
watch.
to be a lot of fun. Gibby wants your top 3 quarterbacks a month in
the league.
Yep.
Mahomes, Herbert. Herbert's playing elite football, and probably, I mean, it's got to be Tua or Josh Allen, right?
Fair.
I like Tua in there.
I'm curious to see what happens with Miami next week. Like, there's a copycat league. So is there something that Buffalo did schematically that is people are going to pick up on and be able to use? Because it's not like their personnel is elite right now. They don't have they don't have.
I'd have to look at this.
I'm just curious to see if Miami, like, say they have that and then they go right back out and drop another 30, 40 spot. You're like, okay, they're fine. Or was there something cracked that's going to slow them down?
That's the fun part of an NFL season. It's like every 2 weeks you've got to change and become somebody new.
Yeah.
Because what you do well, they're going to come up with a game plan that's built to stop that. So you got to be able to pivot and morph. And for Mike McDaniels as a young coach, you have all the answers when you're playing against static X's and O's on the chalkboard.
Totally.
But as soon as those X's and O's are changing and morphing, how quickly can you become a new version of yourself and change what you're doing on offense to take advantage of how teams are now playing you?
So, yeah,
Chess match.
That was a red zone one for me. So it's 14-14.
Yes.
And
It was
then
like
it goes
up and down, up and down.
21-14. And then it's punt, two possessions of punt. Buffalo had one too. And then Buffalo goes touchdown, and then the turnover happens. So at that point, then you're chasing it.
Yep.
At that point. So then you're down 2 full scores, and then you're kind of chasing it a little bit in terms of the way that thing goes. I agree with you. I think those are the teams that have certainly separated from the pack.
Yeah.
It's been that group of them, and we got one tonight. It's been pretty lackluster on the primetime games.
I'd like this to be a good game. This could be a fun game.
I don't know. I'm kind of I don't know. I'm kind of fatigued on this one. Does not appear to be like a lot of fun to watch this one. Seattle and the Giants off.
Seattle doesn't have the juice for me because as much as Geno is playing well, like in my mind, he's still not a starting elite quarterback in the NFL. And it's hard for me to get excited about a team that you just don't feel like they have the horses to be competitive at the end of the season.
All right. We will get our scores on that coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, it is Seattle. It is the G-Men, Gibbe. You want to do it? This is your operation, pal. On the scores when it comes to the scores.
All right. Seahawks, pretty good team, but coming east to face the G-Men. Never been on board this year. Frankly, I think they suck. And Daniel Jones should never have been paid what he got paid.
If you were curious what Gibby thinks about the Giants,
apparently so.
Daniel Jones,
So
you are no longer curious.
You could have just given the Seahawks huge. You would have said it all you needed to say.
It does it.
Zagura, lead us off.
Yeah, I'm feeling good about this Seattle team. I think that, got to get Jackson Smith and Jigba unlocked, but they got Metcalf, they got Lockett. I think they're just a better team. Kenneth Walker, it looks like Saquon's out again, makes them kind of one-dimensional, them being the Giants. So I like the Seahawks.
Is that known?
He's doubtful. Doubtful people don't play.
Okay, well,
I like
people that were probable this weekend. And
Seattle 98, Giants 1.
Joe Thomas.
Yeah, I like Seattle 3, Giants 0. I do not believe in the Giants. They're just in disarray. Yes. Daniel Jones just way too slow processing the game.
Yeah, without Saquon. I was kind of going to ride the home dog a little bit in this one, but
30-30.
No Saquon. It's hard to find a path for it. I like Seattle as well in this one by 3 in a tight one. You have a chance to equal the record.
Yeah, this
with
could
a win, you could get it.
I'm 13-2 this week right now.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Bo went 14-2. Was it week 1?
Whoa.
Week 1, yeah.
Right out of the gate.
Against the spread?
Every
Parlay that.
Baby, let's go. Come on.
Great seeing you, Hoff. And what a weekend.
Thank you, guys. It's always great to be with you.
All right, the next level is coming up next. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.